I guess it. Okay. Um, so I guess we've got a half a minute, oh, not quite, before we start. I'm presuming that the actual host is admitting people to the waiting room. I'm not sure who the host is. Is it Joy? Is it you, Joy? Okay, good. Sorry, no, I had a lot of computer problems today. Here we go. So, I think we should start probably. More and more people are coming, but I don't want to get behind with the schedule. So, welcome. Seem to have, if I just have a look at, oh yes, we've got a lot of people in the participants. And welcome everybody to this session. It's kind of after lunch for us, but maybe breakfast or dinner for other people. It's my enormous pleasure to introduce Kathryn Kay to you today. I first met her in 1997 when, following her bachelor's degree, she arrived at the Royal Northern College of Music to study for 2 years on a postgraduate certificate in education with specialist strings course. And this course included a Dalcroze training that enabled her to eventually to complete her Dalcroze professional teacher's certificate. Since leaving the RNCM, and for the past 22 years I see here, she's been using Dalcroze principles and pedagogy in all her teaching. That's in schools, private lessons, and working with chamber music groups. She devised and directed a Dalcroze string teaching programme called String Moves in Cambridgeshire. And that programme has continued to run successfully even after she left Cambridge and moved to where she now lives. In 2018, she started teaching Dalcroze Eurhythmics to children from age 3 to 11 for the Royal College of Music. And I think in what we're going to see shortly, a lot of that work will appear. So Kathryn, I've seen some of your creative use of the screen when teaching online, and I'm really looking forward to what you have to share with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karin, for the welcome, and welcome everybody. I feel really honoured to have been asked to share my approach with you. My title today is Music, Movement and Magic, and I will share some of the things that I've done with groups of children pre-pandemic and online also. As I work in the UK, the terminology I will use is UK based, but I will try to be clear. I will share a slideshow to aid clarity, and I hope that you can all hear me well enough. There will be an opportunity to try a few exercises as we go along, so do be prepared to stand up and join in if you would like to, and I hope that you've all brought a small object that you can hold in one hand. If not, do grab one now. So I will share my screen and make this work. There we go. So I work for the Royal College of Music, as Karin said, the RCM in London. And there are 2 parts to my job. Sparks, which is the RCM's Learning and Participation Programme, which aims to increase children's access to good quality music experiences, regardless of financial means. We work with communities in partnership with the RCM, and many of the families are from diverse backgrounds and from lower socio-economic groups. I also teach Dalcroze for the RCM's junior department, and this is for talented 8 to 18-year-olds who have high-level conservatoire training each Saturday. And the crossover here is that we hope to provide a pathway for Sparks children to access the junior department if they wish, with financial support. So I'll tell you a little more about the ages that I work with. RCM Sparks works in two ways. One is to go out into the community to children's own environments with partnership schools and nurseries. And the second is to give interested children the opportunity to come into the building and work on site. So the youngest children I work with are classes of 3 to 5-year-olds. That's nursery and reception in the UK. This is our Sparkles programme, and I do weekly Dalcroze sessions in schools as part of their timetable. From the partnership schools, interested children join Sparks Juniors, a project for 5 to 8-year-olds. And this is held on Saturdays in the building, where they have a foundation musicianship programme, classes including the parents, and later start instrument tuition. And this Junior Sparks is a fully funded project for 3 years. At the junior department, I teach the 8 to 11-year-olds. And as a support to the Sparks programme, we work with RCM undergraduate and postgraduate students, and I've put a little cushion of them in here, in their role as assistants for the children's classes. As they are with me weekly, they build relationships with the children, as well as see examples of how teaching a given exercise changes, depending on the needs of the children, the weather, and many other factors. There's no better way. And I also give them opportunities to lead sections of the lesson. And I think there's no better way than to learn by actually doing. And that's a really rewarding part of the job. So today I'm going to tell you some of what the Dalcroze method means to me in my teaching, and share a little of my approach with these different age groups. So I'm going to talk about Sparkles lessons pre-COVID, the sort of things I do and why, and a chance to try out an activity. Going online, examples of activities I did around the use of the frame of the screen and the home environment. And listening journeys, which was a music and mindfulness project for Sparks that I created based on Dalcroze ideas. And when teaching Sparkles in school with the 3 to 5-year-olds, I always remind myself of this quote from Greg Bottrell's book, Can I Go and Play Now? Rethinking the Early Years. So I ask myself, am I adding to the delight of childhood? And I try to keep the prompts music, movement, and magic at the forefront of my mind. The children are from diverse backgrounds, many of which don't have English as a first language. I don't teach notation, but I decide to focus more on the skills that are needed to be a good musician and human. How to lead, how to follow, enjoy the silences, to control the energy of a gesture, to encourage them to be curious about the world, about sound and how we move, drawing inspiration from the natural world. I'm just having a trouble with my PowerPoint. It's not going to the next slide. There we go. So I see them in their own environment for weekly lessons. It's time to build up a relationship, for them to feel comfortable and to share, explore and develop. So I'll take you through these 3 words. Music. There's lots of improvisation, different characters, qualities, speeds, and many opportunities for quick reaction, to show awareness, flexibility of mind. So stopping, starting, changing, responding. A playful approach, hopefully, covering many musical concepts, but presenting it in a tangible way to the children. So, for example, we do staccato through looking at spiky hedgehogs, or compound 6/8 time through swinging a trunk like an elephant, something like that that means something to them. And much revisiting of ideas so that they have many chances to improve their control and their response. Movement. In the UK, even pre-pandemic, young people were not getting their required amount of daily activity. Only about 1/5 of children in the UK were meeting the target. And it's important to me that children enjoy to use their bodies, to know themselves and to build activity into daily life. So I consider it a privilege to be able to weave in body awareness and control into every part of my lesson, and to incorporate children's own ideas and movements and not just follow my example. And they always have more interesting ways of doing things. So there's impulse control and awareness of others there. Magic. So I find by keeping being a child myself, seeing the world through the eyes of a child, the wonder, the mystery, magic often happens. And this could be a silence where everyone is focused, waiting for something to happen, and yet you can feel the atmosphere of the room change. It could well be a non-verbal child suddenly humming the tune of a song, and so many more examples. Children thrive on being happy, safe, and respected, and I think by giving them opportunities to teach, to share what new skill they've acquired, to contribute, to me that's really magic, when a child gives of themselves, showing courage and curiosity, doing something new. And my lessons have listening absolutely at the heart, being in the moment, really listening with awareness. So helping the children to listen better, to the music better, to each other better, and to themselves. And I try to make that listening fun and active. So I'd like to invite you to experience a little of my flamingo lesson. If you'd like to have a look at these pictures of flamingos, I always share a picture with the class, and often an object. Sometimes we have pink feathers for flamingos. And we look at the picture and talk about their long necks and the way that they walk very gracefully, picking up their legs and bending their knees very elegantly. So would you like to stand up and have a little walk like a flamingo, picking those knees up? You can fold your wings behind you if you like. And if you hear the triangle, can you balance on one leg like flamingos are very good at? Here we go. Lovely. So they have a little walk around, and then when they get hungry, the flamingos pad their feet on the bottom of the river, and this disturbs the mud and the sediment, and then all the crustaceans and the shrimp and the algae come out. So would you like to pad your feet, stomp your feet up and down on the spot? And then they bend their necks down into the water. I don't know if you've ever seen a video of them in real life. They bend down and put their heads and their beaks into the water upside down and eat all those lovely shrimp upside down. And the children think this is hilarious to have their lunch upside down. So I'll mix them all up now. Can you follow? Standing on one leg, proud strutting, padding feet, and eating upside down. Thank you, flamingos, very much. You may sit down. Ooh. So as a parent of 2 children in lockdown who were at home completing their schoolwork virtually, I saw firsthand what impact this had on them. So the increased screen use and what was missing in their lives. For most of the week, they were sitting down, interacting with a computer like an adult does at work. And even the more active lessons, such as drama, were often being taught virtually in an academic way, sitting down and writing about a character. So when it came to my Dalcroze teaching on Saturdays, I felt really passionately that this needed to be a different experience for children. I encouraged my pupils to be playful with the screen and use it as a piece of equipment, and I tried to maintain that sense of magic and curiosity, and I'll share some of the things I did. We used their own cuddly toys as equipment to show meter, cadences, all sorts of things, and they loved this connection and the chance to show each other their favourite things. We used found objects and incorporated those into our improvisation. Combs on perfume bottles made a particularly interesting sound for rhythm, and whatever they brought, somebody used water bottles with different amounts of water in, and many other examples. The home environment. The youngest children, the 5-year-olds, I found very instantly were playful in their homes. They were happy to hide behind the sofa, crawl, jump, etc. The older children were more cautious, more self-conscious, slightly more unwilling to let go, but they warmed up. Those who had already seen me in the room were really willing to experiment, and those who were new to the method took a bit longer. So this is an example of, for 5-year-olds, that I did at home. We were investigating lobsters, and they walk slowly along the seabed, looking for food. And when a predator approaches, they hide under a rock. Here are 2 under a rock here. But they scuttle in backwards to their hole under the rock so that they can still see what's going on. So I had the children crawling on the floor, walking around like lobsters. And then as a predator arrived, normally a diminished 7th chord or something like that, they scuttled backwards underneath a table or a chair or that gap between the sofa and the wall, something like that. Then they would crawl out again and then scuttle backwards, and any cats or pets who were around at the time used to think this was hilarious and liked to join in. Viewing the screen differently, looking at it sideways. This is an idea that came from my own children. I was having an informal online meeting with Dalcroze UK colleagues, and my children had been doing digital home learning all day, and they were craving some human interaction. So they came and disturbed my meeting like this, poking some of my teaching aids onto the camera from strange angles. I'll just stop the slideshow. So they got my flamingo and they were poking it on like this. And the amusement from colleagues was very evident. So as I'm sure you all do, you see a new idea, you borrow it and you turn it into a Dalcroze exercise. So this is what I did with 8 to 11-year-olds. Please do pick up your bright object, and can you make it travel across the screen? Swap hands and then come back, one big sweeping gesture, and you can lean with it if you like. Okay, I'm going to play a piece of Bach, one of the Goldberg variations, which is fugal in style. So every time you hear the main entry, could you make your object travel across the screen? And when you hear the same tune again, it happens many times, can you come back the other way? Here we are. Lovely, thank you. I'm going to play it once more. I'd like you now to listen to the pitch of the entry. So if it's a bass entry, could you have your object quite low to the screen like this? If it's a soprano entry, can you be quite high up? And if it's somewhere in the middle, you can be in the middle. I will play the Bach again. So you can start off screen. Are you ready? Off we go. Brilliant, thank you very much. I'm not sure what Bach himself would have thought of pink flamingos going across the screen, but there we go. My children enjoyed it very much. You may now put your object down. Thank you very much. I'm now going to play a jazz arrangement of a Chinese folk song called Little Cabbage, which is about a young girl whose mother has died, and she's finding life rather difficult after her father marries again. So it's a sad song, but a beautiful arrangement. Whilst listening, can you make a flowing gesture during each line of singing, and then pause at the end of each phrase?
小白菜呀，地里黄呀，2、3岁呀，没了娘呀，亲娘呀，亲娘呀，跟着爹爹好上过呀，只怕爹爹去后娘呀，亲娘呀，亲娘呀。
Thank you very much. Well done. I'm going to play it once more. I'd like to draw your attention to what happens in between the singing this time. What can you hear at the end of each phrase?
小白菜呀，地里黄呀，2、3岁呀，没了娘呀，亲娘呀，亲娘呀。
So I hope you picked up a little 2-note ostinato at the end of each phrase. And when I played this with my class, one 10-year-old decided to show that ostinato from the side of the screen. So she just came on, off for those 2 notes of the ostinato. So we had da 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 da, la da dee, 2 hands or 1 hand coming on and off. So would you like to put yourself to the side of your screen? You can be underneath it to the side, whatever works, and you're going to come on and off for those 2 notes of the ostinato. Just wait for you all to get organised. Here we go.
小白菜呀，地里黄呀，2、3岁呀，没了娘呀，亲娘呀，亲娘呀，跟着爹爹好上过呀，只怕爹爹去后娘呀，亲娘呀，亲娘呀。
Sorry to stop it there, that was lovely. That works particularly well in gallery view when you can see everybody coming on and off, obviously not entirely together, but it's still rather theatrical to watch. So that's just a couple of examples of playing with the frame of the screen. Now I'd like to talk about the depth of the camera, being close and being far. And I'm sure many of you have done similar things. And I did various response exercises. So if it was major, then they came close. And if it was minor, they retreated away. And young children in particular really love to come in very close. I think it was an excuse to show me their new gap where a tooth had fallen out during the week or something. So I'd like you to bring your eye really close to the camera. Can you come close? And put your eye as close to the webcam as you can and stare into it. And imagine it's a portal connecting us to everybody else in the conference. You could almost just jump in and go and say hello. And we'll do a little exercise with that. Let me share my screen again. So by viewing the screen itself as a piece of equipment, how we interact with it and see it in new ways, it helped keep the magic and give the Dalcroze session a totally different feel. And there's the webcam coming towards you. So I'm going to share a song. This is a pentatonic folk song. Sally go round the sun, Sally go round the moon, Sally go down the chimney pot on a Saturday afternoon. I'm sure lots of you may know this song, but would you like to sing it with me now? 1, 2, off we go, Sally go round the sun, Sally go round the moon, Sally go down the chimney pot on a Saturday afternoon. So I did this with 5-year-olds and they added actions. They did a big circle up here for the sun and then the other side for the moon. And then when it came to the chimney pot, they imagined jumping down that webcam and going to visit everybody else in their class. So would you like to join me by doing that? I'll stop the screen share and then we can see everybody a bit more. So sun here, moon, and then you're going to jump down and visit everybody down that chimney pot. 1, 2, ready, go, Sally go round the sun, Sally go round the moon, Sally go down the chimney pot on a Saturday afternoon. Thank you. So we did this online, and then when we were back in the room, it was the very first song we sang to join us all together, and actually having that proper eye contact again after 18 months online was just lovely. But a nice way of connecting what they did at home with what we did in the studio as well. Okay, I'll just go back and share this one. So whilst the screen can be very playful, I think it can also hinder good movement. When there's a screen in the room, humans are drawn to it. And I was conscious that the screen also acts as a mirror, showing the children a view of themselves in real time, constantly. Of course, there's the option for hiding self-view, but changing settings like that wasn't something I wanted to go into with young children every week. So I often opted to share a slideshow with visual stimuli from art, from nature, and from the everyday. And here are just a couple of examples. So there's the kite, so you can draw that gesture or use it as a floor pattern, do it in different speeds and talk about time, space, energy. And this one I found particularly helpful for children who felt like they needed to be forward facing to the camera a lot and just using their upper body. Can you put yourself in that position and draw a circle up here? And if you stay in that position, where else can you draw a circle? So it was really interesting to help them to do different body positions. I would play a track or I would improvise and leave the visual image up, and there I think it really helped their movement vocabulary and made them feel less subconscious. And using imagery is something I did pre-pandemic, but not quite to this extent, and I will certainly continue doing so. A definite positive outcome of virtual learning is the chance for the whole class to improvise at the same time. And I devised creative projects which started with images, improvised in movement, and then developed into a piece of music with structure. So taking an idea, experimenting, changing, having control over it, and then allowing them to find their own musical voice on their instrument and share. So at the same time, I saw this as a chance to make connections between the Dalcroze work we did in class, using improvisation, and helping their own playing and playing of repertoire. And many pupils told me of their increased confidence when playing because of the improvisation we'd done, and increased confidence when performing as well. And I'm really passionate about encouraging children to improvise at a young age and using it to enhance all of their musicality in whatever they do. So one project I'd like to tell you about is trees. And this was an improvisation project for 8 to 11-year-olds, which celebrated melodic contour. So freedom from bar time, from rhythmic motifs, from chords. We just focused on the beauty of a melodic line, how the notes connect together and grow into a phrase. I was inspired by Caroline Shaw's composition, Plan and Elevation, from 2015, where she uses the architecture of a building or a tree to inspire her composition. So during lockdown, I invited my pupils to photograph a tree from their local environment and send it in. And we discussed the weight of the trunk, the shape, the texture, the interplay between the branches. And I played lots of examples of solo melodic line pieces. If it was a tree, how would it grow? And how would you show in movement the shape of its branches? What does the silence feel like in between each phrase? Often my pupils would start down below screen and for each phrase just grow a hand very slowly onto the screen during that phrase, and then pause and then do the other hand for the other phrase. One particular 10-year-old, without me realising, I started playing a piece and then he did this with his pot plant, and he made his pot plant dance on the screen, which amused everybody. My piece, Lily's a bit big for it, but so using their own tree, they created a structured final composition stroke improvisation piece, recorded it and sent it to me. And I had some wonderful examples with clear attention to quality of sound, pitch, flow of phrasing. And they all wrote paragraphs of why they'd chosen what they had. There's a particularly lovely example of a ternary piece, where the middle section showed the same tree, but in winter, more stark, more minor feel, before spring returned and showing more hope in the music and the melodic line. And this particular pupil told me that he would never look at trees again in the same way. And other pupils said, Kathryn, I now see music in trees. In fact, I see music everywhere. Fantastic, that really warmed my heart. Lastly, listening journeys. So for 18 months, I was not able to visit the Sparkle school settings. Live online lessons weren't an option for various reasons, due to poor internet connection for some families, engagement and so on. So we wanted to create a video resource to share. And after experimenting with exercises similar to my lessons, I abandoned that idea. I found trying to teach without the children present when so much of what I do is reactionary to where they are, really tricky. So my thoughts turned to Heather Gell, whose radio lessons for children focused on audio, imagination and musical play. And I decided to be inspired by her Dalcroze work and create a more intimate listening experience. So these listening journeys are music and mindfulness journeys designed to be experienced with their teacher at school, to be done seated with gesture only because of the limitations on movement and singing at that point in the pandemic. They are a series of 7 guided visualizations, adding simple gestures and breathing to music and promoting well-being through self-awareness, sense of belonging and celebrating the unique child. And they aim to bring all of these together with active listening at the heart. Thematic material links all 7, and Teddy is taken on a journey. He goes to visit the woods, the moon, the beach, then he has one in snow, and he's turned around, he's given a cuddle, so similar things happen in each one. And they use still pictures, improvisation from my piano, and percussion instruments that I have at home. And for the later ones, there's one called Cat and one called Ladybird. I collaborated with Royal College of Music undergraduate students, and they improvised on their melodic instruments. We shared them with the partner schools, as well as children with special educational needs and disabilities. And feedback has been excellent. The children and staff said they really enjoyed them, and they found the listening journeys captured the children's imaginations and helped the pupils explore how music can make them feel. And they commented on how inclusive the resource was. So to finish, I would like to invite you to take part in listening journey number 2 for children, called Beach.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our listening journey. Here's Teddy. He's coming with us today. Come and journey with us to a land of listening to music and to our own bodies. Wiggle your fingers in the air, nice and gently. See if you can stop when the music stops. Well done. Now put a hand on the top of your arm, near your shoulder. Brush it down your arm, all the way to your hand. And again, from your shoulder down. Give your hand a little massage. Stretch up tall. Listen to this rain stick sound and let your arms float down. Well done. Let's do it again. Stretch up tall. Wiggle your fingers up there and float and wiggle all the way down. Imagine holding Teddy. Give him a lovely cuddle. Turn him round 3 times. He's going to come with us on a listening journey. Today, we're going to the beach. Take yourself in your mind to a place with sand, sea and shells. It's sunny. Feel the sunlight warming your face. Isn't it lovely? Imagine walking on the beach, your feet really soft on the sand. So many thousands of grains of sand, but each one is important. Let's go for a walk in your mind. You stop and sit down. Put your hands on the sand and pick some up. Let it trickle through your fingers. And some more, softly falling. You see a shell. Hold it in your hand. Look at it closely. It has lovely colours and it's got your name on it. Show it to Teddy. It's a shell just for you. Carefully put the shell down and look at the sea. Watch the waves coming in and out. Push your hands out in front of you and bring them gently in towards your chest. And push out and in. Push out and in. Look at the picture of balancing stones. Make your back like this tower of stones, nice and straight and relaxed. Totally balanced. Lift your shoulders up and bring them down. Keep your back straight. Shoulders up and down. Now draw some big shapes with your arms, like the waves, to the music, and stop when the music stops. Give Teddy a lovely cuddle. Turn him round 3 times. Hold your hands together and say a silent thank you to your arms, to Teddy, and to the music for taking us on our listening journey today.
Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for taking part.
Well, you can see all the applause, Kathryn. It's lovely. So now is the time where you can comment or ask questions to Kathryn, and you can do that by writing in the chat, and you can also put up your physical hand or your digital hand, whatever works well. I can't find a digital hand. Oh, here it is. One of those. But you can use the real hand, and to be honest, I find the digital hand a bit small. So if you just do this, I'll see you easily, I hope. Some people are on page 2 and 3. I'm not quite sure how to get over the problem that I don't see those people. But we'll do what we can. If you think you've not been seen, write something in the chat. Where are you, Kathryn? Oh, there you are. I just wanted to say, first of all, Kathryn, I really enjoyed your use of silence and waiting, sort of suspending the moment, because we so often feel we have to kind of push on and get things done quickly. And I think that sort of allowing that space and time for people to do things and know they've done something it was beautifully done and beautifully played. Thank you very much. So, Mary has a question or a comment.
Thank you, Kathryn. You beautifully brought us back into the present day when you mentioned that you sang Sally Goes Round the Sun in your first lessons. I'm wondering if might be too soon, but what from your experience of this other way of viewing Dalcroze are you going to retain in your music lessons? What's the glitter from this? Is there a treasure from this, or a playfulness aspect that you can retain? I'm just wondering. Thank you.
Yes, definitely we were talking about it slightly in the Ligeti workshop earlier, this idea of copying other people's movements. Somehow I think in the room, copying is sometimes seen as a slightly negative thing for children. Oh, so-and-so did my movement. Whereas somehow on the screen, I was able to encourage them to borrow everybody's ideas. Look at the gallery view. If you see somebody doing something interesting or using the screen in a different way, borrow it, make it your own. And that's something I'm definitely going to take forward.
Any more hands or words on the screen? Not yet. So I actually have a couple of questions for you, if that's okay. One of them is relating to the parents. You said that early on that parents were included, and I wondered if you could say something about how you included the parents, what they did, how that worked.
So live, the Sparks children have 3 lessons. They see me and parents don't come, and I have them all together. And then for the other 2 creative sessions, they're split into smaller groups. And one is a Kadai-inspired sing and explore session where their parents sing too, and they do partner games with the parents. And the other session is run by an amazing tuba player who also plays percussion, and he's an animateur, and he gets the parents playing drums and the children playing their instruments and drums, and it's a big circle creative session. So the parents aren't necessarily involved in my lesson in person, but they were on screen, because partner games and things, I was grab an older child or your parent, and if nobody's around, then use the wall. So we just used whatever we could. But yeah, I think it's really important for children who are coming onto a project like ours to have a lot of parental support, and because of the communities we're working in, you actually need to tell the parents what it's about and what practice is and how wonderful music is, because sometimes they have an idea that it's this and actually it's not. So we just include them and allow them to take part in all the creativity we do.
just to follow that up, did you have to kind of create rules like no phones on, or I know some people have had problems with their online children's teaching with interruptions of various kinds, or did you have anything like that?
No, I didn't. The children, because I think they were so active, they didn't have chance to accidentally. The only thing I did have was one of my. He was probably about 9, and I was doing just a "What can you hear in this piece?" um, exercise, and we were doing. You could talk about instrumentation or phrasing, anything, and he'd got Shazam up on his phone. So he would say, "I think this is the Second Symphony, fourth movement by Shostakovich," or whatever. I was like, I think you might be using Shazam. So no, generally not. In terms of the younger ones, they were just really excited to have the weekly contact and to be able to play in their own environments. Like I said, having done so much digital learning, which was quite flat, I think when it came to Dalcroze, it was just kind of crazy, and they just wanted to take part.
Thank you. Does anybody have? Thank you, Chris. Yes.
Hey, Kathryn, thank you so much for a great presentation. Something that jumped out to me was when you mentioned the photos of the trees and how that motivated improvisation, particularly about melody. Honestly, it didn't occur to me that during lockdown, I could have had them presenting on their instruments, maybe more so than I would have in the classroom. And I wanted to, if you could just talk a little bit more about how that went and what it's like to have them use their voice or their instrument in a solo sort of way.
I loved it. I would love to be able to do it in the room, and it's just not possible with 12 children all at once. So I did many creative. Each term we had something. One, I used the logos, the symbols of car badges, the logos. So like a Lexus or a Toyota, and we looked at that in movement and turned that into a composition. I did pieces of artwork. And lots of different things. So we would talk a lot about the quality and the texture of what we wanted, and they would improvise with movement first. And once they'd got a structure and they understood about the articulation and the changing the dynamics and everything in movement, then I said, now take it to your instrument, and just give them 3 or 4 minutes. It means you can have 8 pianos and 4 violins, and it can all happen in a very short, quick, kind of focused 4 minutes. And then they can show what they've done. And then as homework, they worked more about making that into their own composition, and then finally sharing. But because I did 3 or 4 projects, because I was online for so long, I just saw the growth in their confidence. And some of the pieces that they started with were slightly bitty, like I can do this on my instrument and then I can do that, and it didn't quite hang together. But by the time we finished with trees, I had 3-4 minute compositions, which sounded like a proper piece, keeping the same feeling all the way through, but with changing all the ideas. It was wonderful.
Thank you. I'm keeping my eye on the chat here, and as I don't see any hands in my screen, there's a comment or a question in the chat from Bethan Habron James, and I don't know if she wants to ask it herself, or I can read what it says. I can't see her, that's the only thing. Maybe I'll ask it as it is in the chat. So she says, I'm interested in the use of the word magic. I noticed Liesel's words awe and wonder in the chat, and wonder whether if you were to ever write about your work, you could possibly frame it within Van der Merwe and Habron's spirituality model and think of magic as transcendence. Just a thought, she says. I don't know if you are ready to comment on the big thought.
I need to do more reading of Liesel and John's work. Yeah, I love awe and wonder, but those words to me seem almost sort of what you receive, and the magic for me was you know, the child may be doing something unexpected and giving. So yes, I would need to think more about the words and actually what I mean. But yes, very interesting point. I would love to read the things that Liesl and John have written.
I'm sure they can send you their articles. If you,
Yes,
I
please.
have them actually also, so you'll receive a flood of them, I should think. Still don't see any more little
I've just read
questions.
Eva's comment. I'm so inspired by Eva's book and Eva's work. So for her to be inspired by me is really touching. Thank you very much.
That's nice.
Karin, I can see that Anne Rowland has her hand up.
Oh, there she is. Hello, Anne. Sorry, it's the digital hand. It's a bit small for my eyesight. Anne, would you like to ask your question or comment?
Yes. Oh, first of all, I had tears streaming down my face. It's been a while since I've been in the classroom, and it was just absolutely magical and wonderful. Thank you. I also have been participant in some of these video, the technical side of the video presentations, and I'm just wondering, when you talked about the parents being involved, of course, when you were doing your trees, for instance, for all of that to be sent into you, did the parents have to know how to do that and then do it for you? Yeah, that's my question.
Yes, so I don't have direct contact with the children through email. It's all done through the parents' email addresses. So I would explain to the children what I wanted and then would email the parents and say, could you via your account please send something in? So yes, the parents had to be very involved.
Thank you.
Marlene Yeni Maitland.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Very inspiring, and I learned a lot. I did want to comment on what you addressed before about a reaction to someone else imitating, children imitating one another. That happens frequently in my classrooms, and I turn it around right away by saying, you're teaching someone else. And that's what artists do. We share our music and our art with one another, and it really helps to address the reactions, and the kids go right on. Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you.
Yes, I totally agree. I just find, especially within our conservatoire, the idea of kind of competitiveness comes with them at the start. So I try and break that down, but it takes a while. So yes, I do exactly what you do, but sometimes we've got to work through it.
Kathryn, I'll ask my question first. I've just seen Melissa, but because I can't attend the circles thing afterwards, and Chris Rose will chair that. But I wondered if you could say something about what the college students do. You said that the college students joined in or helped, and I wondered if you could tell us what they did, what sort of preparation you gave them to join in. Something about that would be interesting, I think.
So as part of their degree programme, they have to do some sort of music education work, and they can apply to become a Sparks mentor. And that can vary from working with me in Sparkle schools to helping run a workshop, a one-off workshop. There's various avenues that they can do that. So the ones that are chosen to work with me weekly, I do a couple of introduction to Dalcroze sessions for them first, so they've experienced a little of Dalcroze. And then I get a good 15 minutes before every lesson to talk to them about what I'm doing with the children and why, and how the warm-up feeds into what we're doing. They bring their instruments and improvise sometimes, or show a different quality of sound depending on what they play. And then when they're beginning to feel comfortable and they're kind of interested in teaching and willing to have a go, then they lead the kind of warm-up and the 10-15 minutes at the beginning. And because I teach the same lesson to 3 classes in a morning, they do the same 15 minutes 3 times, and it tells them so much about how they introduce an activity and what they say to correct and how they encourage, and by the time they've done it 3 times, they've learned much more than I could tell them if I sat down and talked to them about it. So it's a really lovely thing to be able to do and to support them. And then I'm also that kind of listening ear of they can ask questions and say, well, why did that go wrong? Why did that not happen? Or what would you suggest I do? So it's a really nice way of working. I really love it. Thanks, Monica.
Thank you. Marlene, is that an old hand or a new hand? Marlene Yenu-Maitland. It's an old hand. Okay. Melissa.
Hello, and thank you so much. I feel sparked, and I feel part of the magic all the way over here in the States. So very touched by all that you've shared. So one thing I wanted to ask you about, I was really I love the whole idea of the listening journey and how healing that those are, just from the short experience we had. And I could imagine that the children absolutely loved those experiences. And I was thinking, wow, you know, adults could really benefit from listening journeys. And there's so much need right now all over the globe for healing. And it seems like this is a direction that might be expanded upon. I wondered if you'd thought about that. Thank you.
Prior to having the idea, I did quite a bit of research into what was out there. And yes, there is a lot of mindfulness, but it tends to have, if it's got music with it, it tends to be backgroundy, noodly stuff just there, creating an atmosphere. Or there's, so I thought, well, I don't want to do that. I want to make music the most important bit. So yes, I think so. What we did with there were 5 originally, and the classes did them all in a week. So at the same time every day, probably kind of after lunch when they possibly need a bit of mindfulness before starting the afternoon. And the first 4 they did with the videos. And the 5th one I did live, as I was zoomed into their classroom. So I got to see the whole class doing it, which was really special. And then I created it as a video as well. So it's on the website as a resource. But that was a really nice way to do all 5 as a little package.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Still looking for more hands. Anna Galikowska-Gajewska.
So thank you for sharing your idea, particularly during the so very hard pandemic time. It was a hard time for both sides of the screen, yes, both for the teachers, pedagogues, and pupils, students, adults, etc. It was very interesting and inspiring for me because I'm also the teacher in primary music school, regular music school in Poland. So we have a heavy program schedule for every class, yes. First, second, and third, we have Eurhythmics and solfege, ear hearing. It was so hard time, even though when I mean particularly, especially about ear hearing on the line, yes. And we have to go inside the schedule and program because it is the school, yes, it is statement music school, not some kind of extra activities lesson, yes. So I think that about the magic was always inside the child, even though we think not only the small children, but for all the people, but in fact we are the child, yes, we are the child. And really I think that a magic should be obligatory subject. I mean about the point of learning every kind of the subject, not only music, but when we connect the music and arts, when we mean about, because in fact, the magic, in my opinion, the most open our imagination, yes, and the music and the movement support them. So it was very inspiring for me, but I want to thank you for all the pupils, but we are together, the pupils are very interested in Dalcroze's method. It was very hard time for both of us, but also pupils, because first we need, I'm sorry, but I'm sure at the moment my opinion and experience, but probably it's common for everybody. So we miss the real relationship, not the relationship from the screen, because it's not absolutely the same. Yes. So after 8 months, when I back to the real classroom, I find my pupils different, you know, totally different in a social aspect or something like that. And it is the fact that at the beginning this new school year, we have to back to the previous schedule because the children miss a lot of, yes, but music, even not alive, because we connect on the screen, on the computer, Teams or Zoom, but the music was, is, and probably will be in the end of the exist of the world, the universal, the therapeutic tool. And I can believe my exist and the world exists without the music and movement. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Karin, that you are in the world Dalcroze environment a long, long time. And I wish you to be connect with us a long, long time still and support us and inspire us and simply be with us. And please take care. I mean, for you and you and you and you, take care about your personality, about the members of your family, and remember that the life is, how to say, we can, it's world prize or something like that. The life and health, health and life is the most important. And be together. And again, thank you, the organization team of the conference that passed a hard work. At this moment, it's, when I mean about technical aspect, it's absolutely brilliant, really. Because I don't know how you, but me, I was a little afraid it does work or not does work. But now, from this moment, from the morning, because I start in Poland at 8 o'clock in the morning, everything is absolutely amazing. Everything does work. So congratulations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. I think we probably all agree that we all need one another, don't we? I just have to stop the proceedings here because there is break time before the talking circles, and I'm sure that everybody needs to get up and move around. You have moved a little bit with Kathryn, but long days sitting at the computer, as we all know, is not great. So there are a few things in the chat, people wondering about the availability of your videos, whether they're for sale, things like that. You can ask it in the chat also. Kathryn Smith has put something in there. But otherwise, I think we all need something to drink, and to give Kathryn a big round of applause. Thank you very much. And thank you for your participation, everybody. Nice to see such a big group from all over the world, some probably half asleep for the time. And so Chris will lead the talking circle, which comes after this break. It'll be now about 20 minutes break because we've eaten into the break time a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you for participating, everybody. Take care.